stars, look how they shine for you and everything you do. If they were all yellow, I came along, I wrote a song for you and all the things you do, and it was called Yellow. And so I took my turn. Oh, what a thing to have done.
Can you guys hear me all over, left to right? Yes, hello. We are going to get started in just a few minutes. I hope that you have filled your bellies with mac and cheese and candy and sweets, that you've played with bubbles and puzzles and colored papers. We are going to get started in a few minutes, so you can make your way up to these beautiful chairs. Pick your seat, pick what you would like to sit on, and we'll get started soon. Thank you. BioFeedback team, please report to the front. Wow, all of you came so quickly and just sat down instead of finishing your conversations with my students. That's never the case, so thank you for doing that. Just one sec. Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I am going to have an iPad because I have about 5 to 7 minutes of things that I do want to share with you for our first innovation center or innovation event at St. Francis. First of all, my name is Shraddha. This is my first time doing this here. Now that you know my name, I would like you all to remember your own name. And at the count of 3, can you just say it so I remember everybody's name? 1, 2, 3. Perfect. I got everybody's name. Thank you. So first and foremost, welcome to what I call the Cozy Quad. It is the quad, but today it's cozy. It's not oozy. I know if you look at the, if you look at the QR code, if any of you clicked on that. Second, the amount of people that you see here are exactly the number of people that we wanted. Not more, not less, just perfect. Okay? Third thing, please do me a favor. Find your arm, pinch your arm, and make sure that you are in reality. You're still not stuck in virtual reality. Are you guys still stuck in there? Any of you? Okay. How many of you tried that out? Yeah? What did you think? It's real. Yes. Wonderful. I am so happy that you have all joined us this evening in an evening of virtual reality and reality. Welcome to this amazing place known as St. Francis High School. I am so excited to be here, and it is really my honor to be here. It's almost been 2 years, and I love it. And a warm welcome to our Santa Clara University friends, to our parents, our educators, our everyone who is here. We are so excited to have you. So as I said, my name is Shraddha. I work on innovation and bring together projects, programs, and partnerships for our students and educators with all members of our local and global community. Everyone is part of this. We are slowly but surely building this up, and it is looking good. It is looking good. Look at all of you right here. Just look around. Look at the people here. And we just formally announced our partnership with Santa Clara. Oh no. Okay, it's okay. I am this short anyway, so it kind of works. We just formally announced our partnership with Santa Clara University's Bio Innovation and Design Lab. We are so happy to partner with them, and this is our third project. We've actually done 2 projects with them already, one in the summer of last year, and one that is a mentorship program that is currently happening right now. What you're going to see are the things that have blossomed from this partnership and what's going to be happening in the future. The best part about this is that I get so many students who hear from other students who want to be a part of this. I even had a parent come in with their student because they were curious about it during collab. So I know that parents and siblings and everyone are really excited to be a part of this, so we are just going to keep building this up. Now, I know we have a lot of very special people here. You are all very special, but I'm going to do a few shout outs because I really want you to see the people that I feel are very special. We have Krithika, who is from 5th grade, who's excited for space and dinosaurs and video games and playing outside. We have, I hope I wrote this right, Levin, 3rd grade? Levin, right? Did I say Levin? Yeah, 3rd grade, right there, right in front of me. So excited about hiking and robotics. We have Colin Yang, yes, hello, 12-year-old who is fascinated by VR. We have Tommy, who learns from his big sister, Molly, who is fascinated by engineering and sports. We're going to make a sports VR app next. Don't worry. Maybe a St. Francis football sports VR app, right? I think so. All those sports. We have Miles, a 5-year-old who just flew in from space. He did. Yeah. Miles, would you like the mic? You want to talk? No, I'm just kidding. So wonderful to meet you, Miles. We have Sohan, who is 9, who has tried VR since he was 5 or 6 years old. Amazing. And Mrs. Tickle, do we have Lucy? We don't. Ah, okay. Well, we almost had Lucy Tickle, who was also very little. But we are so excited to have all of these kids here. And if I missed anyone, I'm so sorry. I tried to meet all the little kids that are here. You may think I'm joking about our most special guest, but I'm not, because as parents and educators, you know that it is the littlest kids who are going to change the future. That's why we as educators are here in high school. We want to change our students so that they can change the world, right? We want them to get the skills, get the tools, and go in the right path. So I'm really excited that they are here. Okay, I have one more story before I introduce Dr. Scott, because she is actually really awesome. So I'm going to introduce her just in a second. So I drive a lot. I see my family quite a bit, almost every weekend in LA, and I have put so many miles in the last year. So my car makes a lot of noises now. And I have been getting really high quotes on fixing my car. So my friend told me, you know what? You need to have 3 people in your life: a doctor, a lawyer, and a mechanic. And I will tell you, I am none of those things. So I told him, well, what can I do? I don't know anything that I can do. And he said, Shraddha, you put on some pretty good events. Our manager from back in the day said, if you ever want something fun, have Shraddha do it. So hopefully this event has been a little bit exciting for you. It's going to get even better. I wanted to make this a really comforting kind of a theme. So, you know, as you walked in, you were greeted by our wonderful student volunteers. You were able to sign in. Maybe you took a breath following that fish. Maybe you got some delicious candy that's themed to this event. Maybe you heard the beautiful voice of Mahika, who I heard. Woo! Mahika! And her wonderful friend, Esha, who's going to be joining on saxophone next time. I heard them here a month and a half ago, and I just fell in love with their voice, and I thought they would be perfect to be the live musical guests. So they are my forever musical guests, as long as they will let me. So bubbles, coloring tables, just a variety of things, our VR stations, the food. So really, really wanted to make this exciting for you. But the truth is we all have a part to play. I may have played this part, but the person that has really put this together for our students is Dr. Scott. She has created this idea from her head, from the experience that she has in virtual reality, in neuroscience. She has her PhD in neuroscience, and she worked on medical imaging, and she has been so gracious with her time and her knowledge for our students. We have met for 4 months with our students. Every week, we meet on Monday for a check-in and 2 hours for a lab day on Thursdays, and a lot of time on Discord. And Dr. Scott just pulled an all-nighter last night, right? Just for this, just to make sure that our project, our code was working, our script was working. Really incredible. That is the dedication that we have from our partners, and that is the dedication that hopefully get from us as educators as well. So I just want to say that part. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Scott. I've shared that she has her doctorate in neuroscience. She is the research associate from Santa Clara University's Bioinnovation and Design Lab. And I am going to bring her up here so she can introduce our wonderful students, 9 of our wonderful students. Dr. Scott, woohoo!
Hello, everyone. It's really a privilege to be here. It's been a really fun 4 months getting to know your kids. That I look at them as young adults, and really they're transitioning to be adults, and really getting them ready at that 18 mark, and it's tough, right? But that's part of why we're doing projects like this, not just partnerships with universities, but this particular one had the driving focus on mental health. So how do you actually tune in and be aware of how you're feeling to manage yourself? And that's a skill that really needs to develop over this period of time. And at the Bioinnovation and Design Lab, we work on external partnership projects within the field of healthcare. So every single project that we do has some intersection outside of the university, and has some relationship to health. So in this case, we're looking at behavioral health and more of psychology. Some of our other projects are looking at bioassays, medical imaging. It's the entire gamut. So what we did here was take a project that I've already run before, using neurofeedback, so measuring brain activity and incorporating that into VR, which I built with Max Sims, who's in the audience over there. And that particular project was run as a live installation at multiple events, the largest of them being a multi-month installation at the Asian Art Museum in San Francisco. So this is something I like to think I know how to do. It's still tough every time. It's a new adventure. And I've decided to bring along this group. We invited 9 people to the team, thinking that by the end of 4 months, we might only have 6. We have 9 students here. So I think that's pretty amazing. They stuck it through. They had to learn Unity from scratch. They learned how to build a game design doc. They learned how to work together. 9 people, coordinating 9 people in any context is a little bit challenging, and they found a way to make it work. So I'm really proud of what they've put in, what they have built together, and recognizing none of them could have done it individually. This is not an individual project. This sort of work is interdisciplinary. And so now you get to hear how they did it and hear their perspective. So come on over, team.
Sorry, I'm short. Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is the team, the BioFeedback team, and we are so excited to be in this partnership with Santa Clara University. And we are also very excited to share what we've been working on for the last 4 months. We call it fluorescence. All right, next slide, please. It's okay, technical difficulties happen every time. Oh. You're good. Take a moment to take in the silence. It's all about mental health here, right, guys? Meditate, focus on that heart rate. We can play the dinosaur game too. It'll help. Does anybody have any jokes? Trivia. Well, I guess raise your hand if you've experienced virtual reality before today. That's pretty good, actually. I haven't, like, before this project. So another, okay, you can stop raising your hand. Another thing, it's harder to do virtual reality with the glasses on. Little fact, yeah. I see you. Thanks, Mia. Yay. Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was gonna say, I know it's a little early into this experience, but I know some of you've already tried with the VR headsets. Do any of you guys have any questions, just in general, or just, yeah? Do you guys have any questions? Anyone? Yeah.
Soham.
So, like the window, if it's, how can it exactly know your like heart rate, even though like it only sees your mood?
Oh, a heart rate question.
Electronics?
Electronics, please.
How does it know
This
your
is a
heart rate?
team effort.
It uses a device, an Arduino device, and basically, it sends a light. It sends a light into past your skin, and then it bounces back and gives a value. Oh, we use a. Oh, we can elaborate on this later, but basically, it gives us back a value, which is the heart rate, and then we send it back. We send it to the device using Bluetooth.
Yeah, basically using Bluetooth. That's what she. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna recruit you for our team soon. Don't you worry. 9 years old doesn't matter.
We'll
Thank
have
you.
a part 2 and we'll have you in it.
I think we got this. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. We're gonna start back up. This is a process. This isn't just a presentation. It's through the entire process. Come on up.
All right, we're back. Sorry. Okay, so hi, I'm Sovi. I am a senior at St. Francis, and I am part of the programming team.
Hi, I'm Aditya. I'm also part of the programming team, and I'm a junior at St. Francis.
My name is Brian. I'm a junior, and I'm also a part of the programming team.
All right, we are the design team. I'm Carly. I'm a junior here at St. Francis.
Hi, I'm Anya. I'm a freshman.
And I'm Molly, and I'm a senior.
Hi, we're part of the electronics team. I'm Ruhi, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Nitish, and I'm a junior.
Hello, I'm Mia, and I'm also a junior.
All right, so first we're going to go over the flow of the presentation and basically what we're going to see as we go through it. We're going to start off with the inspiration behind the presentation, behind our game and why we created it and how. And then we're going to go into the development, which is basically how we created it and what we used to create it. Then we're going to talk to the design team, and then programming team, and then finally the electronics team. And then at last, we're going to do the takeaways, what we learned from it, and our conclusions.
Perfect. Next slide. I'm just going to put this up a bit. So our objective, I think it's safe to say, well, excuse me, you may be wondering, why are we doing this? What's the sole purpose? And I think it's safe to say that our world is sort of in this state of tumultually, meaning it's sort of everything's going on, it's very chaotic. And I think so in response to everything going on in the world, people more than ever need a healthy way to escape their anxiety and stress. This is exactly what we kept at the front of our minds while brainstorming this project and continually, going through the trials and tribulations.
All right, so I guess more about our project specifically. So Carly talked about mental health and focusing on our body and our physiological signals. So we focused on heart rate and we built a physiological sensor that tracks heart variability, and we found a way to make it more of a visual aspect to users. So we created a virtual reality environment that incorporates a user's heart rate. So you're able to visualize your heart rate in real time. Yeah. All right, next slide, please.
Okay. So I'm going to be talking about how we're leveraging video games and just games in general for mental health. Nearly half of Americans are projected to have a diagnosable mental illness, and nearly 2/3 of Americans actually play games. Both of these numbers have significantly skyrocketed due to COVID. While there are previous stigmas around gaming for being bad for health and time, it is still an incredibly innovative therapy option. Gaming provides an opportunity and ability to offer sensory stimuli, which increase engagement and potentially have therapeutic effects. These also improve mood through stress and emotional regulation. Great examples of this include cognitive behavioral therapy, which through games allow users to identify and change their disturbing thought patterns, and exposure therapy, which because of gaming's high personalization, low cost, makes it easier to be exposed to certain fears. So, next slide, please. So while gaming is extremely powerful, we can leverage games in VR to another extreme. Okay, sorry. Unlike simple video games, virtual reality immerses the player in a 3D world, nudging the brain in in a way that audiovisual media just can't. The flexibility of VR also means that it can be adapted to treat a wide range of mental health problems. These include PTSD, anxiety, depression. VR treatments have been developed for these, and it's technology like this that allows us to treat mental health and other problems in America.
Now that you have a general idea of what our project is about, I'd like to introduce some of the tools that we used to achieve our goal. For the world building, that is creating the actual cave environment, we used Unity and Blender. Unity is a game engine software, which is just a fancy way of saying a program used to make games. Blender, on the other hand, is a 3D graphics design software that we used to make the actual cave. In addition, for the navigation and lighting aspects of this project, we wrote scripts in the C# language within Visual Studio. The electronics team also created a heart rate sensor and combined that with code written in C++ within Arduino to actually send your heart rate from the sensor to the Oculus headset via a Bluetooth connection.
So in this slide, you can see the human diagram schematic and see how the individual components come together to create the whole product itself. You can see that the Arduino collects the heart rate from the user itself, and then the VR actually displays the game, and it transmits values via Bluetooth. Next slide, please.
Oh, not yet, not yet. There are two ways in which the user may measure their heart rate. One is by using an ear clip. The other way is by using your finger.
Next slide. Okay, so I'm going to talk about what we actually did to get this project started and how we actually began building our environment. Next. Okay, so we started out with brainstorming. The picture you see here is a collection of sticky notes. What we did, and the main way we brainstormed, is we wrote down all of our ideas, like no matter what they were, we had no boundaries. We wrote all of them down, from the objects that would be in game to just like the overall storyline of the game and the environment you're in. And so what you see here is our ideas collected, we had many desks just covered in sticky notes. And we ended up narrowing it down into 2 ideas. I think one of them was like a nature trail walk, and the other one was the cave that we're currently using. And we had to choose the ones that we could find the best assets for, and assets being what we could purchase in order to build the actual game, the components, and all of the objects that you see around you. So we ended up deciding on a cave. So then we had to search for inspiration. We searched up many images. We had many pictures saved on documents and many storyboards created on how this would flow and what our final game would look like. And then we had to do research and find assets. So research being what the softwares we would use and how we'd actually go about making the game. And then assets being what I just explained, what objects you see around you, and which ones we were going to use, because there's the Unity Asset Store is a huge interface where there's so many different varieties of things you could use, and you have to get ones that are all the same theme and all kind of like go in the same area, and you have to know what goes with what. And so we did a lot of brainstorming for that.
Next, I would like to walk everyone through a little storyboard of our game. I wanted to highlight the 5 main sequence of events. Hopefully a lot of you had the opportunity to try it out or look at it on the computers. But if not, I'm excited to step through the main highlights that the design team and I created and visualized on our storyboard. So first, when the user enters the game, this is the home screen. You can start or exit the game. And when the user first enters, they're in this forest environment. They're in a clearing, so the user has capabilities to look around them in 360 degrees. And when they look around them, they can see trees and plants, and they're really immersed in the outside world. And then in front of them, they'll see this big mountain that will have an entrance to a cave. And we are hoping that that'll spark some curiosity within the user, that they're interested in seeing what's in it, and that they're excited to enter. Next slide. Next, as the user first enters the cave, you will see the 2 sides are covered in glowy plants, and so those are similar to the glowy plants that are on the outside of the cave that ease the transition. So when you're first walking in, it's just like the outside. And on the ceiling, you can see the glowworms. We really had inspiration from these caves that Carly will talk a little bit about more later, but there's these caves that have glowworms in them, and we just found through research that they were really calming. And so it's built with a particle system that the programming team made, and so it is a nice little glowy aura on the top of the cave that will reflect the user's heartbeat in its movement. Next, to keep the user engaged and curious in what's going on, we add little additions to the environment. So as you can see, there have been some crystals added to both sides of all different colors and shapes and sizes. And that's really to just add to the environment. The colors, we really curated ourselves to help make the user feel comfortable and enjoying themselves and relaxed. And then the glowworms continue on the ceiling. Next. Okay. And then this is where things take a little bit of a turn. So the user will enter this spiral staircase that will take them down to this cavern. And if they look up, they can see the nighttime sky and the stars. And so surrounding them are the crystals that are on the ground that were in the cave. And then in the sky, there are some crystals hanging and dangling that are releasing some nice glitter, like a big release of rain. And we thought that was a nice calming addition. Next. And finally, at the end, there's this big sculpture of a crystal, and the crystal colors and the glowiness effect of it, I guess, will fluctuate with the user's heart rate. So the user can really see the reflection of how they're feeling in this structure. So it'll really help them regulate if they're feeling too stressed or if they're relaxed. They can see that visually. So we have these really nice crystals that are still in the sky, and they're emitting nice glitter that just help you relax and let everything go. And that's the final scene.
Okay, so now we're getting to the design team. So, oh wait, go back one more slide. So this is the beginning of the cave, as Molly mentioned. I want to tell you a little bit about the inspiration behind this whole concept. As Anya mentioned that we each wrote down a specific idea of just the brainstorm of what we wanted to do. And I specifically remember a instance during quarantine when I was locked away in my room and I was going down this Google search of endless Google searches. And one thing that I came upon was this article or this promotion of this glowworm cave in Australia. And automatically I was just, whoa, what is this? So of course, as one does, I clicked on it and I got to experience this virtual tour of this glowworm cave in Australia. Very random, but super interesting. And one thing that I noticed while completed the tour is how calm I was. And for some reason, I was like solely just focused on this virtual tour. And I just noticed that and I kept that in mind. So when we were brainstorming, you know, what's an experience that is calming, stress relieving, automatically I just thought, oh, a cave. So that's sort of the inspiration behind this whole concept. So next slide. All right, so the next photo that I have up here is the cave itself, featuring the crystals as well as the other assets, the particle system, which is the glowworms on top of the cave, as well as the vegetation itself. So that red, purple, green, greenish sort of looking alien-like plants. And so as assets, all the assets pictured here are there for a reason. That's why when thinking of certain colors and variation of certain assets like the crystals, vegetation, and particle systems, I had to think about how each design played a part in the psychology part of our project. I had to keep in mind what colors and motion cause positive feedback from people. That's why the user only sees such colors as light blue, red, green, as well as purple, making sure the user isn't too hyper-fixated on one portion of the pathway or experience. Hence why for the final scene, moving on to the next slide, that's why for the final scene, you'll see while I actually experience this, is that the particle systems or this waterfall effect for the finality is slowed down. I did this partially because of Sophie, she helped me figure this out, to again, not arouse the person who is experiencing this. We didn't want to create a stressful state of mind in terms of the flow and speed of the overall walkthrough of the cave. Again, like I said, this is the finale. I'm so grateful to Sophie. She helped me facilitate my ideas and my vision and made it sort of reality in terms of, you know, I had this big idea and she sort of simmered it down a bit. By collaborating after school hours, we were able to put together a final result. The final result being the spiral pathway, like I said, adorned with crystals of all varieties, as well as leading downwards to a massive crystal structure seen in the slide. But yeah.
Perfect. Next, I'll speak a little bit about what I worked on myself in collaboration with multiple people on my team. So the first thing, really big part of being on the design team was doing asset research. And as Anya mentioned, the Unity Asset Store is just this library of things that people have already made on Unity. So existing objects, existing things that we could use and implement into our own project. And a big part of what we did as a design team was looking through those and gathering inspiration, what we liked, what we didn't like, what we wanted to use, what fit within our budget. So all three of us did a lot of work on Unity, finding assets and finding the really design that we were looking for. So yes, and then also on research, we did a lot of test and like trialing out different virtual reality existing biofeedback games that were kind of in the same realm that we were hoping to create a project in. And through trying those games, we took notes on what we enjoyed, what we didn't like, things we wanted to incorporate into our own. So we did a lot of research in that sense. I worked a lot with Brian. The both of us did a lot of work on the outside world, outside the cave, making sure the environment of the forest was what we wanted it to be, and that transition into the cave was smooth. So researching different trees and plants for that, And then also using Blender, we had been doing a lot of practice with the Unity platform, and Brian and I were trying to find a way to create the cave, as you can see in the second picture, the structure of it, the actual cylinder model. And so we both found different videos on YouTube, and we're like, hey, let's try out this new technology called Blender, which none of us had used before. So we kind of took a little pivot from Unity, and we tested out Blender. We learned some new technologies. So we definitely took that on as a challenge, and we're really had an open mind to trying new things and incorporating that into our project. Lighting was something we had to look into also. Just being a cave, it's dark, and we didn't want it to be too dark. So we wanted to incorporate the glowiness, some fog particles. Different research went into making the lighting perfect. And then also the final scene, something that really had an impact on me, testing out a few of those other virtual reality applications. One of them had this release of water at the end, where water just went down the sides and down on the ground. And I felt personally that that really helped me relax at the end of the experience, like I could release anything I was still carrying with me. And so I, along with the design team, we all did some research on different assets we could use. And so we came up with the waterfall glitter that when at the final scene, when the crystals were emitting their glitter, that was our inspiration for that. So next, on to Anya.
All right. So I'm going to talk about what I did and the team and what we did together. So I'm going to start with the music and the soundtrack of the overall experience. It took me a while to find and consolidate to like one or two soundtracks to use during our experience, because there were so many varieties of like themes and ideas we could go with for the soundtrack, and we wanted to create a very specific kind of vibe as you go through this cave. So we wanted something mystical yet calming, but something that you weren't, like, your attention wasn't drawn to, but you knew it was there. And we went through like tons of YouTube videos and all sorts of other resources, and we ended up on the one you can see on that screen on the left. And then also, we've already talked about this, but the asset research along with the rest of the design team, I took a lot of the assets and consolidated them into one document. There are so many different types of rocks we could have used, so many prices, so many crystals, and we needed to find the best ones we could use. And so that was a really interesting experience for all of us. Next slide. And then this is kind of what my main focus was. What I was doing was, okay. Okay, what I was doing is on this one now, I think. Yeah, it's on this one. So what I was doing is I built up the cave facade. Like we said before, Molly and Brian worked on the actual kind of like you can consider it like the skeleton of the cave, the overall shape, and how it moved, and like the kind of the turns and twists of it. And what my job was to add the rocky facade around it to make it actually feel like you're inside a cave with the details all around you. So you can see on the left side here, okay, perfect. On the left side here, you can see how it looks when it was in Unity, and I was like halfway through the process of placing like every single rock. You can kind of see the skeleton poking out in front, and then you can see my rocky like facade in the background. And so I had to build it up rock by rock. And then you can see kind of like the finished rendering in the other two pictures. You had to like build it up from the ground up and place the rocks individually over the top for a large section. Then you could finally be able to copy that section and paste it. But then since the cave had so many twists and turns, you would have to replace some rocks and change some other ones. And we were able to find a really good rock asset that we could use with so many different shapes. So that actually made it feel like you were in a real cave, but it was stylized and like in a mystical kind of magical environment. So yeah, that's what I did. And now I'm going to hand it over to the programming sub-team.
Transitioning into the programming aspect of this project, next slide. A large part of it was taking all of our combined ideas and actually merging it and creating it inside a Unity project. As mentioned before, we used assets from the Unity Asset Store, and these included different types of rocks, plants, and crystals. You can see some of them on the right side here. They all have their own material, which is essentially how they look in terms of texture, color, or vibrance. We also implemented different lighting settings, including fog, which helped us blur out the unimportant parts of our world and instead help the user focus on what was important, which was what was up close. For creating the actual cave, we used Blender, which is a 3D graphics design software. In terms of 3D rendering, Blender is far superior than Unity in creating such things because in Blender, you can essentially take any basic 3D shape and stretch it in ways that can never be done in Unity. In fact, the 3 cave variations you see at the top were all created from stretching a single 1x1 cube. You'll also notice that they have different levels of sharpness inside them, which is just one of the many settings that can be played around with inside Blender. Next slide. These are a few images of what the project looks like from the Unity editor point of view, which is where we do all the actual designing. On the right, you see the cave outline that Anya worked on earlier, using over 20 different types of rocks from the Unity Asset Store. She was able to make the cave interior look more natural instead of geometrically generated. On the left side, you see the editor view of what the entrance to the cave looks like. For example, you see a strange wall of rocks that represents the entrance of a mountain. And outside, there's a little cluster of trees that represent a forest and some strange alien-looking plants at the entrance. And here is Sovi on the end scene.
All right. So, like we were saying earlier, this is a team effort. And since we've been split into 3 sub-teams, there's a lot of collaboration between those 2 teams. And as Carly was saying earlier, I worked with her to create the end cavern. This required a lot of taking the design team ideas, specifically more like Carly's ideas, because we worked one-on-one, and making them into like a feasible way to like create them on Unity, and also and also the programming and like 3D design aspect of whatever they had envisioned. For example, at the beginning, they wanted particles to come from the ceiling of the cavern, and Carly and I were talking about it, and we were like, there should be a big thing that happens at the end of the scene because it's the end of the entire game. And what could we do to attract the user down to the very bottom of the cave and have like a big finale type thing? So we came up with the idea of a big crystal at the bottom of the cave so that the user could see it kind of as they were walking down through the cave and see as, who had said it earlier? Or if you guys had seen it before, the big crystal has user or heart rate variability in it as well. So that would kind of draw the user into the bottom of the cave. Yeah, so I helped with creating the outline of the cave, and Brian put in the particles and the crystals with the particles systems coming out of them. Next slide, please. So another thing about this project was trying to figure out how can we vary the virtual reality environment with heart rate variability, which is what the electronics team mostly did, but we also all had a part in figuring out what aspect of the environment we should focus on. So here on the left, you can see a picture of spiraling spheres, which we had worked with Mr. Lobster, who is a professional in the 3D design industry. So we had the opportunity to be on a call with him, and he showed us some tips and tricks on Unity. And so in this example, we have spheres, and in the code on the right, there's a function that changes the position of the spheres. So if this was a video, you would see the spheres spiraling around in real time. And we will also be talking about this with the glowworm aspect, which is what we chose to use for to show the heart rate variability. And Aditya worked on that, so he will be talking about that. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ditya and I'll begin by discussing XR control. So firstly, what is XR? XR stands for extended reality, and it's the umbrella term for things such as VR, virtual reality, AR, augmented reality, and MR, mixed reality. And so our project is focused solely on VR. So whenever we talk about XR control, we're talking about things that, like the controllers that allow users to interact with with VR games. Next slide, please. And so different VR systems have different ways of tracking the controllers. The system that we're using, which is the Oculus Quest 2, uses something called Constellation Tracking, where the controllers have infrared LEDs located on the rings of the controller. And those infrared LEDs are detected by the cameras in the headset. And so that allows the program to know the position of the controllers at any point in time. And so in the beginning of the game, when you're interacting with the user interface with the controllers, that's how the position of your hand and your movement is detected. Next slide, please. So aside from the UI interaction, the main purpose for our usage of the XR controllers was for the navigation of the user through the cave. And so for the navigation, we used an asset that uses the cubic Bezier curves using parametric equations. And that allows us to create curved paths to which the user is bounded. And so you can see here that each segment of the path has 2 anchor points, which define the bounds of the cave, and 2 control points, which define the curvature of the cave, of the path. And so to allow the user to move, we use the joystick on the left-hand controller. So pushing the joystick forward moves the user forward, and pulling the joystick backward moves the user backward. And so the position and movement is fixed onto the path, so that because we don't want the user to go outside leave the cave. And the user speed through the path is time and position dependent, because the speed changes based on how much game time has elapsed and what part of the cave the user is in. Next slide, please. So another element of our game is the glowworms that populate the top of the cave and emit particles that change based on the heart rate. And so since we did not want to have to individually place every single glowworm throughout the cave, because that would be extremely time consuming, we decided to program their placement so that at the start of the game, the glowworms are automatically instantiated. So one of the cool things about this is that the position is randomly generated. So at the start of every new game, the glowworms are composed differently, and no two game runs will be the exact same. And this was one of the most difficult parts of the coding, because I had to take into account the curvature of the cave in order to make sure that the glowworms didn't bleed outside, because each glowworm has a light component that's very computationally heavy. And so we had to make sure that we were using as many glowworms that we needed, and that we weren't wasting resources. And so now I'll pass it off to the electronics team.
Hello, I'm Nitish. I'm part of the electronics team, and we're going to be talking about biofeedback, which is a term we've been throwing around a lot. So what exactly is biofeedback? Biofeedback is the audio-visual representation of the physiological states for the purpose of regulating internal states. Now, I just said the complicated definition, but what does it actually mean? In essence, biofeedback is a technique that you can use to control your bodily functions. In a feedback loop type fashion, it teaches you to make subtle changes in your body, such as relaxing certain muscles to achieve the results you want. Biofeedback gives you the ability to practice new ways to control, often to improve a health condition or physical performance. The type of biofeedback we use is heart rate variability, and it's a key indicator of the regulation of our circulatory system, and it's linked to emotion and focus. As you can see in the graph, HRV incoherence can indicate frustration and anger, while coherence indicates more positive emotions, which is what we're trying to target as our goal in the game. When we register a change in HRV, we can make changes in the lighting of our particle systems to subtly train the user's brain to relax. Next slide. Examples of the use of our biofeedback include glowworms at the top of the cave, which have been mentioned, and these glowworms will emit particles based on your HRV that will vary with size, color, radius, and number. And at the end of the cave, we have a mother crystal, which on the right side will shift its emission power based on your heart rate. The visualization of the heart rate and natural processes in the cave will indicate the status and state a user is actually in.
Okay, let's look a bit more into the heart sensor itself. So you can see the heart part of the sensor, which actually goes on the skin itself. And the way that it really works is that there's an LED light that you can see with the green arrow, and it sends the light into the capillary tissue. And then the photo sensor, which can be with the blue arrow that you can see on the sensor itself, it takes the light in and records how much time elapsed between sending the light and receiving the light as well. And based on that, it's able to calculate the actual heart rate itself. You can also see the wires that it has used. It uses the ground, which is in black, the red, which is the power wire, and then the purple, which is the actual analog data wire. Next slide, please. And over here, you can see how the pulse sensor is actually connected to the Arduino itself. Next slide, please. Okay, and to read the values from the sensor, we actually coded in C++ in the Arduino IDE, and we used a sigmoid function to kind of smush the values of the heart rate between 0 and 1, which would later allow us to easily manipulate and affect the objects in the game itself, such as the particle system that we talked about earlier with the glowworms. And another thing is that on the right, you can see the serial monitor, which has a continuous output of the heart rate values, and the serial plotter, which has it in a graphical manner. Now we'll hand it out to Mia to talk about how we used Bluetooth in the project.
Hello, I'm Mia. I'll be introducing the Bluetooth aspect of the project. So here's how we integrated our sensor with Unity using Bluetooth. We want to make our sensor transmit values from the heart rate sensor wirelessly via Bluetooth so that the user could move easily with maximum flexibility. Bluetooth technology allows devices to communicate with each other wirelessly. Without Bluetooth, users would need to be physically wired to the device via a USB cable, which is not flexible at all. So we tested using two kinds of Bluetooth modules or devices shown above, HC05 and HC06, that would allow the Arduino to communicate wirelessly with Unity via serial ports. So the components of connecting the module include one ground wire, one power wire, one receiving wire, and one transmitting wire. The receiving and transmitting wires facilitate the communication between the Arduino and Unity. The transmitting wire sends analog values from the sensor to Unity, while the receiving wire allows the Arduino to receive a signal from the Bluetooth. The power and ground wires are kind of defaults for any electronic systems. The power wire supplies power to the system so that it could work, while the ground wire disperses any of the excess power safely. Next slide, please. So there are two categories of what we consider hardware. First is functionality. So first we'll start with the pulse sensor. That is what measures the user's pulse, as Ruhi described earlier. Second is power. For testing, we initially used a power supply cord, but for portability purposes, we use batteries instead. We found that 4 AA batteries were actually more efficient than the 9-volt box-like batteries. And third, we used the Bluetooth module, as I explained earlier, and connected it to the Arduino. Fourth, we used the Arduino board, which is often like a backbone for any electronic projects. Second component of this hardware is polishing. So first, we have the methods of reading the heart rate sensor, of using the heart rate sensor. We can use the ear or the hand, as I depicted in those two pictures. On the left, you can see that there's a Velcro strip around the finger, and inside the Velcro strip, there is that heart rate sensor that we've explained previously. Second is the ear clip. So inside the ear clip, there's also a heart rate sensor. The benefits of using the ear clip is that it allows for the pulse to be measured without obstructing hand movement, which is often used to grip the controller. But for those who have accessories or aren't comfortable with the ear touching a heart sensor, there's a finger option, and it works perfectly fine as well. Second, we utilize school 3D printers to print cases for the Arduinos. I had lots of help from this from Sovi, and that is used to kind of cover the Arduino and protect the components inside. Third, we had the armband. So when a user is going through the entire thing, in order to hold the Arduino case and all the components, they would use this armband, which is kind of like a sports phone carrier integrated so that it can carry Arduino parts without obstructing performance. Though there was some major condensing of the wires initially that prevented functionality, we came up with multiple different ways to give the wires some area for flexibility. Thank you.
Up next is a quick demo video of the experience in case you did not get to try it out. Outside the cave, you'll notice that there are those alien-looking plants I was talking about earlier. And once you enter the cave, you're looking at the glowworms.
And so the glowworms emit those particles that change based on your heart rate. So it's the frequency of the particles and the size and the color.
You'll also notice some crystals lined along the edges of the cave, which also increase in density, the number of crystals, as you progress through the experience.
And you can see that the glowworms curve with the cave, and they don't leave, or they aren't bleeding outside of the cave. And so as you reach the end scene, the waterfall starts automatically.
You essentially just travel slowly down this long spiral path with crystals lining the edges of it. And eventually, you approach a large crystal at the bottom.
And there's also music playing. It's muted right now.
There's the opening in the top of the end cavern where all the particles are released into the night sky. And there you go.
What would we do next? There's like a couple more. Yeah, there's two.
It's okay, Mr.
So here are some ideas we had for things that we would add next. So one of the things we would consider adding would be more scenes, so that the user would be able to teleport out of the current scene into a different world that is different from the cave. We would also add visual elements like water, waterways, and rivers. And we might also reconsider the assets that we use for the scenery. And we might also modify the sound, so like add footsteps, or have the music respond to the heart rate, like change its volume or change its pitch in response to the heart rate.
All right, now to our, put this up a bit. Now to our concluding slide, sort of the takeaways that we got out of this project, because it's a very unusual project, and we have such a good, we're so lucky that we're able to partner with Santa Clara, and the school is just so supportive of this new technology. And so these are some of the things that we took away. One of them being commonality. In retrospect, I feel like we all had this commonality between each other. The commonality being figuring out a way to use our skills and technology to our advantage in hopes to solve this real-life problem. The real-life problem trying to create a healthy coping mechanism to stress and anxiety, using, of course, biofeedback. It was interesting to me how even though we are all very different, we may not participate in the same clubs, activities, even grades, and grades in terms of A, B, C, D, and grades in general, whether junior, senior, and in this case, freshman, as well as sophomore. And I thought it was interesting how we all just came together. And in general, I feel like we've learned so much about each other, and really were able to connect in a different way that I think we aren't able to in the classroom environment. So this experience was super cool. Yeah.
Something else that I think we all took part in was this long engineering process, which included a lot of planning, as you saw earlier in the Post-it note brainstorming activity, all the way to making a GDD template, or a game design doc template, which essentially included all the ideas that we decided on and different assets to import in order to create those ideas and plans for what it would look like. We also displayed a lot of persistence and problem solving in all of the problems that we encountered, which I think was really cool from all of us.
All right, and the final thing, and I think one of the biggest things, is we learned so many life skills in this journey, and not just relating to the actual game itself, but just like the teamwork aspect. We met 2 times a week officially, and in the beginning, it seemed like that was plenty of time, but as we got to like towards the end, we realized we needed to hustle, and we were on Discord so much. People were on it till like 3 o'clock in the morning, all-nighters, just like almost like so many days. And it just, we learned how to communicate in ways that we didn't think we would. And it was super cool to just see us all come together in different ways, and not just in person, but us finding ways to like communicate with other people. And, you know, we got to learn so much about like teamwork and what it means, and how to have a plan, and how to, you know, plan out your time, even when you think you have so little, and how to stay calm under pressure, and all sorts of things. So I'm super thankful to this entire group, and I think we did an amazing job. So, yeah.
Fun pictures.
These are some fun photos.
Yeah.
Collaborative, yeah.
Good selfies, yeah. Okay. And lastly, we'd love to give a huge shout out and thank you to both Ms. Chiploth and Dr. Scott for supporting us. For supporting us every day, every minute of this project. They answered all of our questions. They were so supportive of us and really patient with our learning, and they were really just amazing role models to have. We're so grateful that we had both of you to complete this project with us. Also, a huge shout out to some of our mentors who joined us along the way, some special guests. Miss Emily Dang from Santa Clara University, Mr. Claps. Mr. Dave Lopser, who works in the VR industry. And finally, Zaid Lobo, who's an alum of St. Francis. So huge shout out to all those people for their inspiration and their support.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
One more round of applause for our amazing team of students. I'm going to take just a couple questions. We're going to have delicious hot chocolate after, so you can have more conversations with them. But are there any burning questions that anybody has? One question, anyone?
Dr. Scott.
Oh, Dr. Scott. Sorry, I didn't see you. Hi. How did I'll repeat her Whoa. Okay, I'll repeat the question. How did they come up with the name for their game?
Okay, so how we came up with the name. I think it was like a good hour or so of brainstorming in total. We had so many weird words. Espial.
Yeah, we tried practicing it, and we're espial,
It takes so much. You wouldn't think how much thought it takes to come up with the name for a game. So many people had so many different point of views on this, and I believe we had a four-way tie because we tallied up who wants what names. We had a four-way tie. We did it again. We had a three-way tie again. It was super chaotic, but you need to think of what the customer wants, and I think that's something we all learned a lot along the way. What exactly what name would appeal to someone? Would it be memorable? Would they know how to say it? Kind of all of that. And so it's we learned a lot about that. And so we ended up coming up with fluorescence. I believe there was a good amount of ties and to come up with that as well. And that was the one we eventually ended up on. It had a majority, and I think we're all now really happy with it. And yeah, so that's it.
Quick shout out to Carly. Thanks for making that beautiful logo for us.
And actually, you all should have gotten a sticker that Dr. Scott printed out for everyone. So you can stick that, on your water bottle, your laptop, wherever you'd like. One more question? Yeah. I'll repeat the question from our 9-year-old Soham. How long did it take to get this project done, and what was that last part? How hard was it to get all of this done?
4 months. Right? Come on up, somebody.
Yeah, so as mentioned before, we met twice a week formally, 30-minute meetings on Mondays over Zoom, and a 2-hour meeting in person here on Thursdays. Towards the end of the project, we started getting a bit nervous, so we started meeting more often, over Discord calls. A lot of us collaborated over GitHub, pushing and pulling projects so we could all add our different aspects of the project to it. Dr. Scott stayed up all night last night trying to fix certain bugs. Thank you for that.
Also, just wanted to shout out Brian and Aditya for hard carrying so much, incorporating everything together. Like I said, 3 sub-teams having to combine everything together. They also taught me and the design team how to use GitHub, which is very important in the world now, especially in CS. If you're looking to get into CS, please learn GitHub. It's very helpful. But yeah, that's it.
Also, shout out to Discord for making all of our dreams come true. It wouldn't have been possible without you.
Amazing. As you can see, they have learned so much more than just virtual reality and healthcare. They have learned about each other, about themselves, about how they can collaborate and how they can continue to learn. So I thank you all so much. It has been amazing working with you guys. We are going to continue a little bit, of course, because we are going to continue bringing VR to St. Francis. So stay tuned for that. You guys can start passing those out. Yes. You guys are going to get something real quick. Just 2 more minutes. Give me 2 more minutes before you go to your hot chocolate. I want you to remember, again, this is not the final presentation. This is a process. They're showing you where they are at this stage in time. They didn't focus too much on the PowerPoint because they were so busy building the app and putting that together. So just something to keep in mind. I want to give some gratitude and shout out to the people that made this happen tonight, just because I could not do this on my own, you know, putting all of these things together. So our facilities team, they're not here, but Rob, Jim, Mike, Junior, Hugh, Jose, and Jorge. Our hospitality team who are here, Winston, Tim, Maria, and hopefully I didn't miss anyone else. Yes, our tech and AV team, Alvin, who's not here, but Dale, who is right there. Dave, who is also there, who's taking our videos. Larry, Nigel, and Antoinette, who is right over there. Our marketing and comms team for making, you know, a lot of our content that we've had and publicizing our Santa Clara University relationship. Jamie and Michelle. Michelle, who's also there taking photos. Thank you. Our student volunteers, Jake, Leanne, who are both passing out some wonderful glow-in-the-dark, you know, you can break those and then put them on your hand. Also, and Claire, who already left. Our musical guests, again, Mahika and Esha, who were here. All of you, just really excited to have you here and be with us for our first in-person event for this. If you are a student, schedule a one-on-one with me during collab. Let's make this happen for you as well. If you are a parent, embrace that your students, that your children are here to learn a variety of things. Don't try to pressure them to do something. Let them explore on their own, and they will do amazing things, just like our students back here. If you're an educator, let's get some VR into your classroom. Let's try to, whatever your class is plus VR, we can make that happen. If you are part of the community, come join us. We are so excited to welcome you. So with your LED lights, we're gonna do this all together. Go ahead and crack that LED, or sorry, that glow stick. There's a connector on there. Close it up and put that on your arm, on your hand, on your wrist, wherever it fits, wherever it fits. Now say, yes, exactly. Flow with, what is it? Cave into the calm. Say fluorescence, fluorescence. All right, we have hot chocolate and desserts in the back for you. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we get Dr. Scott to say something? Like with you and Dr. Scott too.
Group photo?
Group photo.
For sure. Good luck with your A+.
We should clump up.
Oh, guys, group photo.
We should clump up.
Dr. Scott, please report to the front. Dr. Scott. We need a photo with you.